Yo, before I start this video, a friend of mine decided it would be best if I would change my YouTube channel name, which I agree is actually true because my last name was long. So I'm going from the last video to this video. What's on Dre's mind? Oh, by the way, that's my roommate, so a little technical difficulties, but that's alright, it's all good. Alright, and what's on Dre's mind? It's Summerslam 1989. Summerslam was held on August 28th, 1989 in the Meadowlands Arena, East Rutherford, New Jersey. So it's back in New Jersey for a second time. Okay. The main storyline for this pay-per-view was kind of a strange one. Hulk Hogan had done his film No Holds Barred, which premiered in the summer, and WWF really produced the hell out of it. Hey, you know what? It's Hulk Hogan. He was a big star. Well, he actually still is, but you know, they had to do something with him. And the thing is, Hogan's co-star Tiny Zeus Lester appeared on WWF TV, and he is his character for the movie, and they gave his explanation that Zeus was angry for Hogan accidentally breaking his nose on set, which I'm shocked. I'm like, wow, that's crazy how they did that. But they did it, and Zeus is now part of Hulk Hogan's storyline, and it's also Randy Savage is also part of Zeus's story. It's also part of Zeus because, well, you know, because Hogan beat Savage for the WWF title at WrestleMania 5. So there you go, it's a storyline. And to make things even more complicated, Hogan got his new buddy Brutus Beefcake, who were best friends in real life, to tag with him. So the main event will be the WWF champion Hulk Hogan teaming up with Brutus the Barber Beefcake against Macho Man Randy Savage and Zeus. More on that later. The commentators for this will be Tony Schiavone, which actually was a shock because Tony Schiavone did work for WWF for like a year. For 1 year before he went back to WCW. Of course, he will regret doing this. And he's teamed up with Jesse Ventura. And these two have gotten along quite well in the past. The first match is the Brainbusters against the Hart Foundation. Now, if you're watching this match, Brainbusters come out with the tag team titles, but yet the titles are not on the line tonight. Why is that? Well, because the Brainbusters had actually defeated the current champion, the last champions, I mean, Demolition. They actually beat Demolition before this match was even signed. Therefore, the tag team titles were not on the line, which explains why the Hart Foundation is not even a tag team title shot. As for this match, it was a pretty solid opener. One of the best openers SummerSlam had to offer. No, there was a lot of great tags going on, a lot of great action by basically really 4 great wrestlers, 3 technical, 1 being a powerhouse, the Anvil. The match ends when Anvil does a reverse power slam with Bret Hart onto one of the Brainbusters. The ref is distracted by Heenan. Anvil goes after Heenan, so on comes off with a double axe on the Bret. Anderson switched places with Tully, so the referee couldn't tell. 1, 2, 3. The Brainbusters retained in 16 minutes 23 seconds, which in a very great opener. Not a bad match. I say I give it 4 out of 5. It's actually a pretty good opener. You should watch it out. It's really good. Next segment, Dusty Rhodes has arrived at WWF, and he's interviewed with Mean Gene, and his interview is pretty funny. It's hilarious. You gotta see it. You gotta check it out. He's in a match with Honky Tonk Man. Now, Honky Tonk Man, of course, he's no longer the Intercontinental Champion. He's sort of bouncing around, and he's actually a perfect opponent for Dusty Rhodes. In a match, it's a pretty standard match, you know, everybody got the licks, you know, Honky Tonk Man does a shake out on row, Dusty, you know, he does his dancing himself. The match ends as Jimmy Hart, his manager, to set him up to get hit in the head with the guitar, but he sidesteps. Jimmy accidentally El Kabongs Honky, and then Dusty hits his signature elbow drop, comes in for the win in 9 minutes 36 seconds. This match was okay, but it sort of drags, so I give it 2 out of 5. It's still fun though. After the match, Honky's a little dazed, confused. He thinks he's the actual Elvis, and he thinks Jimmy Hart is Priscilla. Sorry, technical difficulties. Next segment, Mean Gene is with Demolition and Jim Duggan. Duggan is wearing a cape and crown, and he has all these gimmicks. No, he's the king of the ring. He's with Demolition. Even his board has the American flag on it. Demolition explains how they're going to beat the hell out of their opponents and see what happens. Next match, Mr. Perfect versus the Red Rooster. Well, Rooster is still around, but now his feud with Heenan is over. He's just like an odd guy with a very bad gimmick. Oh, this gimmick is so bad. Mr. Perfect is already in the ring, but he still doesn't have his music yet, but he's still perfect. This match, for what it's worth, it was okay, but unfortunately, it was cut short, and I'm going to explain that a little bit later. The match ends where the two brawl for a moment. Perfect re-enters the ring. He catches Rooster at top ropes and hits the Perfect Plex for the win at 3 minutes 21 seconds. The match, unfortunately, was cut short because early in the match, Rooster had hurt his knee, and they had to call an audible. They had to cut the match a lot short. I don't know how long it's supposed to be, but it wasn't supposed to be a squash match. Anyway, I give this 1 out of 5. No, Rooster, it was a bad gimmick. It sucks that the match had to be cut short. Perfect continues his perfect record, so he moves on to bigger things. Next segment is pretty funny. It's actually a blooper that's been going on for so many years. I don't know when. Mean Gene is with Ravishing Rick Rude and Bobby Heenan, and he's about starting his interview with the two men. The SummerSlam logo behind him drops, and he says, "Fuck it." They have to cut back, and it turns out that the interview was actually just recorded a while back ago, but somebody messed up and accidentally put on this blooper. They had to cut back. They had to basically save grace, but you can't really save grace when something like that happens. That blooper is still one of the most legendary bloopers of all time, and there's no way of saving it. It's still funny as hell. Next match, the Fabulous Rougeaus and Rick Martel with Jimmy Hart and Slick takes on the Rockers and Tito Santana. This was the breakup of Strikeforce, Tito Santana and Rick Martel. Rick Martel said he was tired of carrying Tito Santana, and he decided to just move on his own. He's like, forget you. So this is why the 6-man tag is here. And the Rockers and Fabulous Rougeaus, they're just here to back up this storyline. The match is actually a pretty fun match. You got six talented wrestlers just fighting each other. It's actually technical fair. It's actually a pretty great match. The match ends when Shawn Michaels hits a flying fist drop and press slams body into Raymond for a cover. Jacques tries to break it up, but accidentally hits Ray. All 6 men end up in the ring, and Tito nails Martel with a flying forearm. However, the referee is distracted, so Jimmy Hart tries to interfere. He hits Marty, and Jacques rolls him up, but Marty reverses it. This looks like they were going to win. Martel re-enters the ring and hits Marty. He is a legal man, so he covers Marty for 3 count, and at 14:58 minutes, the Fabulous Rougeaus and Rick Martel win the match. This was a pretty fun match. The ending was kind of crazy. It was it lasted a little too long. I give it 3.5 out of 5. It's actually a great 6-man tag. You should check it out. I somehow recommend. Next, Tony Schiavone recaps a video for the Rude Warrior feud. They show clips of the pose down of the Rumble and the WrestleMania 5 match. They also show Rude attacking Warrior on Primetime Wrestling. Rude gave him a pile driver, and Andre the Giant watched his back. Andre's too busy jawing with the fans, so he didn't notice that Warrior fought back against Rude. And then they end with Rick Rude picking out a lady from the stands and thinking that he was going to kiss one of his fans because that was his thing. But the Warrior sneaks in, does his attacks, and that's pretty much it. Oh, yeah, one more thing. Another Superstars clip where Heenan strikes the Warrior, so Andre can attack from behind and choke him. Then we go back to SummerSlam where Warrior's going to be asked a question, but Warrior starts yelling kind of crazy. You can never tell what this guy what he's going to say, what he's going to do, but he was just insanely intense, and that's just how Warrior was in his career. With all that said, the Intercontinental title match, the Ultimate Warrior against Ravishing Rick Rude with Bobby Heenan. Rude comes out, does his normal thing. He tells everyone that, hey, shut up and let me show the ladies what a real sexy man looks like. That was his thing. Rude was a legend. Warrior comes out, and this is actually a pretty Pretty solid match. Much better, much better than a WrestleMania 5, where this match was actually done much better. Rude puts Warrior over like $1 million. Warrior does much better in this match against Rude. I say that this Warrior-Rude feud was really good. I say that WrestleMania 5 was kind of bad, but SummerSlam 89 made up for it. The match ends when Rude has Warrior on the brink of pinning him. Piper comes out. Rude hits a pile driver, but he knows Piper comes taunting him. Piper answers by mooning Rude. Rick decides to climb up the turnbuckles to yell Piper better, but Warrior is able to suplex him, hits a flying shoulder tackle, hits his running splash for the win, and at 16 minutes 2 seconds, Warrior wins the Intercontinental title for the second time. Like I said, this match really much better than the WrestleMania 5 match. They did a lot better. Rude, of course, no, this was his only title win in WWF. Really, he should have been WWF champion at least sometime in the future, but no, it never happened. But kudos to him for putting the Warrior his second title win, and this leads up to much bigger things in the future. The Intercontinental title match, I rate 4 out of 5. It's a definitely must see. Go watch it. It's actually good. Eugene is backstage and get ready for some promos. Mr. Perfect comes out. He says there's been never anything like him before, and never will be again. Because Mr. Perfect, a perfect example of everyone in WWF. Russo was a stepping stone. Perfect then claims that he does what he says he's going to do. Gene shows him a clip of the finish of his match. Perfect reminds everyone that nobody beats Mr. Perfect. And Kurt Hennig, you proved everyone right. Man, do we miss you. Next comes in Roddy Piper. Roddy Piper rambles on about how he kind of screwed over Rick Rude, and he's like, oh well, I'm gonna get Rude in the future. That was that. Next, we're gonna run to Garvin, who is wearing a tux. He said, hey, why? He said, oh, I got a special job to do. So as Garvin leaves, Bobby and Rick Rude come out, and they are upset that Piper came out, distracted Rude. Rude lost the Intercontinental title. He said, no way, he should have been champion. And that's how that ended. Next up is another 6-man tag. Demolition and King Duggan versus the Twin Towers and Andre the Giant. Before the match, all three members of the face team, Demolition and King Duggan, were in a black mask. As they take off, Demolition shows off their face paint, which is the traditional Demolition face paint. Duggan shows his own face paint, the colors of the red, white, and blue. I love Duggan, he's so funny. As for the match, it was what it was. It was a slow match between 6 big men. Especially Andre the Giant, who at this point his health was failing him. He couldn't do much anymore. He was always in tag team matches, 6-man tags, multi-man tag matches. He just couldn't do much anymore. He was just, poor guy was just not, his health was dying, his health was failing him, and this was the best he can do. At the end of the match, the Towers attempt to do some double teaming, but Smash is able to slam both of them. Andre's had enough. He tries to chop Smash to the match. All 6 men end up brawling. Axel Boss Man head to the floor. The ref becomes distracted by trying to get Andre out of the ring. So Duggan grabs his 2x4, hits Hakeem. Andre tries to warn the ref, but the ref makes 3 count anyway. At 7 minutes 23 seconds, Demolition and Duggan win the match. This was not a good match at all. I'm going to say this is 1 out of 5. It was a slog of a match. I recommend don't watch it. It's pretty bad. It's pretty slow. Mean Gene is with Ted DiBiase and Virgil. Gene talks about Ted's upcoming match with Jimmy Snuka. DiBiase says the time of waiting is over and SummerSlam is upon us. He's going to prove that he's not only the wealthiest and classiest man, but also the greatest athlete in the WWF. He talks about Snuka making a triumphant return, but says he's just a primitive eating coconuts and bananas. Pretty damn racist, but he tells Snuka that he would just be like Jake Roberts, a statistic and victim of the $1 Million Man. Don't take the promos lightly, people. It was a different time. I know. You shouldn't say it today. You shouldn't have said it back then. You should have said it today. But these wrestlers, when they answer to the boss, they gotta do a job, and no, gotta do what they gotta do. Next match, Greg the Hammer Valentine with Jimmy Hart versus Hercules. Well, Valentine has been feuding with Ronnie Garvin. Greg beat him in a retirement match, so Jack turned to give him Garvin jobs to run the WWF. Garvin kept finding ways to get under Valentine's skin, so Greg asked him to be reinstated. Garvin tonight has a special assignment. He introduced Valentine, which isn't so kind, introduced him as the so-called opponent and calls Jimmy Hart a pipsqueak. He didn't question Valentine's hometown and weight. He says that Valentine is overweight and his whip manager can't give him any advice. And Valentine makes his way to the ring with a pissed off look in his face. And Ronnie doesn't really care. He just continues on saying that he wears a cheap robe and can't tell where it's coming or going. He said Valentine made the big mistake in requesting for him to be reinstated. Garvin is about to leave. Valentine gets to his face. Hercules decides to take advantage. The match is really short. The match is what it is. It's not very good. The ending is pretty insane. Hercules ducks for a backdrop. Valentine hits a forearm. Herc versus suplex. Valentine begs off into the corner. He lures Hercules in and hits a double leg takedown before pinning him. His feet on the ropes for the win. It wasn't much of a match, but at 3 minutes 8 seconds, he gets the win, or does he? Garvin gets the match and declares Hercules the winner. And Valentine's like, wait a minute, correct it. Garvin's like, okay, I'm mistaken. Hercules winning by DQ. Hercules music is played, and there's pretty much an all-round brawl between all three men. This match, 1 out of 5. Not much of a match. The action wasn't very good. You can skip this one. Mean Gene is in the back in the dark room with Randy Savage, Sherry, and Zeus. They're all standing around with bubbly and smoking cauldron with witch's brew. Gene asks Sherry what's in the cauldron, and she tells him it's the cauldron of madness. She says it will help them destroy Hogan and Beefcake. She looks into the water and says she sees Hogan flat on his back. She squeals, something about Beefcake having his fetish. I don't know. She tries to see what will happen to Elizabeth, so Gene asks Savage what he sees. Randy says he sees the same thing, with Hogan is in tiny pieces. He calls Beefcake the weak link and says he sees Hogan at the bottom of the cauldron because of the human wrecking machine, Zeus. Savage then says he's looking at the end of the road. He sees Sherry with Elizabeth, and the possibilities are unbelievable. Our next match is the final match for the main event. It's Ted DiBiase, accompanied by Virgil, takes on Jimmy Superfly Snuka. Snuka is making his comeback after being away from the company for the past, I think, 5 or 6 years. DiBiase is over in the ring. He doesn't have his iconic music, but he'll have it soon. Snuka comes out to a pretty weak reaction, but you know, I think a lot of fans don't care. He's back at this point. As for the match, pretty much kind of a weak match. It's really a shame because these two are really technically sound wrestlers, and for them not to have a great match is very disappointing. At the end of the match, Snuka backdrops and shoulder blocks DiBiase, but Ted turns a charge into a hot shot. He then hits a suplex and a backbreaker for a couple of 2 counts. Then he slams him, but he misses a falling elbow. Snuka answers back with some headbutts, Clinton dive one, but doesn't cover him. He goes to the top and attempts the Superfly Splash, Virgil distraction. Snuka chases Virgil and they brawl. So DiBiase sneaks over and sends Snuka to the post. They will decide, and the ref administers the fastest 10 count you will ever see in your life. Trust me on this. Ted DiBiase at 6 minutes 27 seconds wins the match. I give this match 1 out of 5. This is a nothing match. Not a lot really goes here. In the match, as DiBiase celebrates with Virgil, Snuka runs in and clotheslines both of them. He attacks Virgil and hits the backbreaker before doing the legendary Superfly Splash. Next, we have one final interview, and Gene is back with Hulk Hogan and Brutus the Barber Beefcake. Hulk does his usual promo, so does Beefcake. You know, they have a secret weapon. What in the world's going on? Is that made Elizabeth? We're about to find out, because here comes the main event. Back in the ring, Finko introduces the Genius to recite a poem for the crowd. The Genius, by the way, is Linda Powerful, who is Randy Savage's real-life brother. He's dressed in a graduation gown and cap, and has a metal scroll. So, if you want to hear the poem, he was a poet in real life. So, in the main event, it's Hulk Hogan and Brutus the Barber Beefcake versus Randy Savage and Zeus with Sensational Sherry. Savage, Sherry, and Zeus enter first. Beefcake enters by himself, and Jesse calls out to fight Hogan and Sidger separately. Just a good point. Hogan comes out next. And then Hogan tells Finkel to introduce someone. Who else? It's Miss Elizabeth to the crowd. Liz comes out to Savage's thing. Randy is really losing his mind. Jesse, of course, calls Liz a gold digger. Of course, he always says that. As for the match, it was an okay main event. Nothing special. Zeus, Tiny Lister Jr., not a wrestler. You know, he's an actor. He's just a big guy that doesn't really know how to wrestle. But all three guys got him through it. They helped him look like $1 million. So Zeus is okay. Zeus does all right in this match, but doesn't do a lot. At the end of the match, Hogan chases Savage outside, where Randy tries to use Liz's shield. Savage and Zeus take control until Savage and Brutus go down with a double clothesline. Hogan tags in, tries to suplex Savage into the ring, but Sherry trips him up. Savage then tags Zeus, hits a flying elbow, but Hogan immediately pops up to his feet. We're talking about Hogan up here. He sends Savage out of the ring, but Zeus is the legal man. Hogan knocks Zeus to one knee, so Sherry gets on the apron. Liz pushes Sherry into the ring. A beefcake tags Savage. Hogan discovers that Sherry's purse is in the ring, so he gets Zeus with it. Slams him and hits the leg drop for the win. Tony loses his mind in the commentary. Hogan and Beefcake win the match at 15 minutes 4 seconds. After the match, Sherry tries to attack Hogan, but Hogan catches her. He throws to punch her, but hits an atomic drop instead. Elizabeth hits Sherry with the loaded purse, knocks out Sherry. Beefcake uses the shears to cut off Sherry's ponytail. Sherry retreats with Savage and Zeus, while Hogan and company pose in the ring. And that's the end of SummerSlam 1989. So the match, I give it 3 out of 5. Not a bad main event, but you know, you got 3 actual wrestlers, and you have to work with one big guy who's not really a wrestler himself. So, you know, you have to do what you got to do, and there's that. As for best match and worst match, the best match I would give to, I say, Ultimate Warrior and Rick Rude. They put on a great match. The encounter was much better than the WrestleMania 5 encounter match, which was great, which was actually a bit of an improvement. So there you go. Worst match I would give to the 6-man tag between Demolition and Duggan against the Twin Towers and Andre the Giant. At this point, Andre the Giant is just no longer reliable in singles matches. He has to be in tag team matches, multi-matches, and that's pretty much it. My final review for SummerSlam 89, I'm going to say 3.5 out of 5. I mean, some matches are okay, but would I recommend this match? I'd say you really, if you want to see all SummerSlam main event, SummerSlam shows, go for it. But other than that, there's really not much besides the Intercontinental title match. Some matches are filler, and there's really not much to it. What you guys think of SummerSlam 89? Do you think it was good? Do you think it was bad? Do you think it was in between? Do you think it was in the middle? Do you think the matches that I said were great were good or not? Let me know in the comments. Like and subscribe. This is Dre. What's on Dre's mind? See you soon.